Good morning. It is 9:06 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What's going on? It's Chris Hand. We got a packed show today. Mac Morey is producing. He was here on time.
Hey!
Mac. Also on the program today, Andy Ogles, our congressman, is going to be stopping by to talk with us about anything we want to talk about. And I actually want to know what you want to know from Andy. So if you have a question for Mr. Ogles, send it to the Super Text line, 615-737-9986. If it's a solid question, nothing crazy, but like actual good, thought-provoking questions, I'll be sure to ask them. 615-737-9986 is the number to text those. It's also the number to get involved in the show. I'm planning on asking Andy about impeaching Wray and Garland, what that process could look like. He's already introduced impeachment stuff on Biden, so maybe he has some inside baseball for us on that. But anything else you want to know from Andy, 615-737-9986. So as we open the show, Joe Biden headed to Arizona last night. He got back from vacation, and now he's headed to Arizona. So he's doing this while the border is open. Public schools are failing our kids. The economy's in shambles. Gold Star families yesterday sharing their excruciating pain on Capitol Hill over the botched Afghanistan withdrawal. So what is Joe up to? Well, like I said, he's back from vacation. He spent almost a year of his term on vacation. So he's probably rested and ready to get back to work, right? Well, yesterday he did get back to work. Shovels to dirt, boots on the ground, right? That's what you picture when you think about Joe Biden, right? Yeah. It's just shovels to dirt. It didn't seem like they were back to work yesterday at all. Joe spent his day hanging out with the Houston Astros. I know it's a tradition, but when it's like your first day back to work, like
That's not work.
that's not work.
No.
He got off the helicopter and made a beeline to the White House, not answering any questions, as is also tradition in the Biden White House. And then he literally fielded softballs with the Astros. So now Joe is off to Arizona today. And again, he's not. I don't envision this. I don't think he's going to address real problems. He's actually going to visit Arizona to visit the Grand Canyon and talk about a new national monument. This is what the AP says about his visit. Biden's first stop will be the Grand Canyon area, where on Tuesday he will announce a new national monument to preserve about 1,500 square miles around the Grand Canyon National Park and limit uranium mining. That's what White House officials said. Uranium, it got me thinking when they said they're going to limit uranium mining. You don't say. Uranium. Didn't Hillary Clinton give 20% of our uranium to Russia? Doesn't that sound familiar? Well, if it doesn't, allow me to jog your memory. It was back in 2018, my friends. The world was so different. We weren't in this new normal. It was a simpler time, mind you. Donald Trump was president. But back in 2018, Fox News reported, back when Fox News was still credible in 2018, they reported on something that happened while Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State in the Obama administration. This is what the report from 2018 said. An FBI informant involved in the controversial Uranium One deal has told congressional committees that Moscow paid millions to a U.S. lobbying firm in a bid to influence then Secretary of State Clinton by helping former President Bill Clinton's charities during the Obama administration. Sounds oddly familiar. The Hill first reported late Wednesday that informant Douglas Campbell gave a 10-page statement to the Senate Judiciary Committee, House Intelligence Committee, and House Oversight and Government Reform Committee, and was interviewed for several hours behind closed doors, of course, by committee staff. In a statement obtained by Fox News, Campbell said Russian executives told him that Moscow was hiring for APCO worldwide in an effort to influence the Obama administration and Hillary Clinton. Campbell said Russian nuclear officials told me at various times that they expected APCO to apply a portion of the $3 million annual lobbying fee it was receiving from the Russians to provide in-kind support for the Clintons' global initiative. That contract called for 4 payments, $750K over 12 months. Campbell said in the statement, APCO was expected to give assistance free of charge to the Clinton Global Initiative as part of their effort to create a favorable environment to ensure the Obama administration made affirmative decisions on everything from Uranium One to U.S.-Russia civilian nuclear cooperation agreement. Campbell's attorney, Victoria Tonsig, said her client has reported a strategic plan by Russian President Vladimir Putin to take over the uranium industry. The Russians were so confident that they told Mr. Campbell, with Clinton's help, it was a shoo-in to get the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States approval. That's what Tonsig told Hannity back in 2018. They were so confident in that they even had him open up a new office because they were planning on the kind of business they were going to do as soon as the CFIUS approved it. I mean, weird, right? Sounds oddly similar to what we're seeing surface now with the Bidens and Burisma, no? Just influence peddling, enriching your family, shell companies. Weird. Was everyone in the Obama administration diving headfirst into influence peddling? It sure seems that way. Did Obama know? Did the chef know? Tonsig told Fox News that Campbell was told by the FBI that Obama was aware of the information. He was told that President Obama had it in his daily briefing twice. Yeah. Sorry. So easy to get sidetracked by Democrats and corruption. But back to Joe Biden's visit. So he's there to announce a new national monument today to preserve 1,500 square miles around Grand Canyon National Park and limit uranium mining, per the White House officials. So that's what he's doing in Arizona today. And uranium. We don't need uranium. We sold it to Russia. But do we really need to spend time in Arizona to discuss spending money on a new national monument when we're trillions in debt, homeless veterans on our streets, drug-addicted Americans dying en masse thanks to the fentanyl pouring over the border in Arizona? You know, he also had to fly for today's event yesterday. He flew there yesterday, last night. You know, all that travel sure tuckers the big guy out. I mean, the man is out of touch. He's planning to give a speech at the Grand Canyon today. And on the bright side, we're going to get a few laughs out of it because he's Joe Biden, the walking gaffe machine. And that's probably the only good that we can count on coming out of his speech at the Grand Canyon. But the border isn't funny. The border is an absolute mess. And Joe Biden is going to be a car ride away. Do you think he's going to address the border at all? I doubt it. And the border is absolutely terrifying right now.
In Yuma, Arizona, most migrants cross in the middle of the night when the temperature is at least below 90 degrees. In the afternoon, temperatures can reach 120 degrees. But even then, the heat can be dangerous, especially for children and the elderly. Those populations are at higher risk of fatal heat strokes, according to the CDC. The extremely hot temperatures are now joining other dangerous conditions such as deep water levels, drownings, and falls from the border wall that have contributed to a record number of migrants dying while crossing into the U.S. over the past 2 years.
That was from CBS, just detailing the chaos at the border. Never mind the fact that they say migrants instead of illegal aliens. Never mind the fact that they highlight people are falling from the border wall as one of the reasons of death. But it just highlights the fact that it's chaos at the border. Absolute chaos. And Joe Biden will be a car ride away from that chaos. And it's not good, smart money to bet that he will address it. Again, set aside the fact that the media calls illegal aliens migrants. The left always plays the word games, right? And, let's also set aside the fact that these illegal aliens know the dangers before they cross. Like, I have a hard time feeling bad for them when they're crossing in, 100 plus temperatures. Like, you know what you were getting into. You play stupid games. You win stupid prizes. But that being said, it's an absolute mess. And the Biden administration and Joe Biden himself will be a car ride away. He's not going to visit. He's not going to address it either. He's just not. Unless he finds some way, some opportunity to blame Republicans for the mess that's at the border. Because that's the only thing that they do. That's how Mockingbird media operates these days. If he can find a way to blame Republicans for what's going on at the border, then yeah, he'll probably talk about it. But the man's going to be a car ride away. And he had to fly there last night to be there for a speech today. This is not a serious administration. It's just not. He spends a year on vacation during his first term. We're what? Two-thirds of the way in. A year of it has been spent on vacation. He's rubbing elbows with the Houston Astros instead of answering questions about Hunter Biden and the influence peddling, instead of answering questions about the weaponization of the DOJ. He's rubbing elbows with the Houston Astros, who are also known cheaters, as an organization. So maybe they had a lot to talk about. But when are we going to see some actual movement on any issue from the Biden administration? When I was a kid, I used to think that Democrats were just, good-natured, but making the wrong decisions. And as I've gotten older, I just feel like they're purposefully making wrong decisions with malintentions. I think that they like the chaos. I think that they want to fuel the chaos, and we're dealing with the repercussions. We're dealing with blue sanctuary cities being overrun by migrants. Sure, it's their policies that started it, but the border is where it really started. And we're seeing it in Nashville. We're seeing it in Chattanooga, where they're flying migrants in the dead of night. Every state is now a border state. Every city is a border city. These policies are affecting you, and they are affecting your kids, and they're going to affect the America that our kids grow up in. So it's time to get serious. I plan on asking Andy Ogles about that. Andy Ogles will be joining the show after 9:30. What do you want to talk to Andy about? I want you to be a huge part of that interview. I think that you are the fourth man to our team. I always say it. And the super text line is your gateway in. So any questions that you have for Andy, send them. 615-737-9986. We also have a big event coming up. The big event, August 15th, J Street Korean Grill and Bar. Dan Mandis, Matt Murphy, Brian Wilson, the whole team is going to be out there for Super Talk Live. Brian's going to be doing his show live. Pamela Furr is going to be there, Johnny B. And we're going to be, rubbing elbows, talking politics, talking about solutions, though, not blaming people for the problems that are happening. We want to talk solutions, and we want to talk solutions with you. So grab some tickets to the event at Supertalk at 997WTN.com. And you can use promo code Chris to get $15 off your tickets. Again, I just want to remind you, Andy Ogles will be on the show after 9:30. If you have a question for Andy, 615-737-9986. I want to talk to him about Wray and Garland impeachment and anything else that's on your mind. 615-737-9986. This is the Chris Hand Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, it's Chris Hand. Hope you're having a great morning. The show is lit today. We got Andy Ogles joining us in a few minutes. You know, we actually just touched on Joe Biden. He's in Arizona today, not to discuss the border, but to limit uranium mining around the Grand Canyon. You know, deal with the pressing issues of the American public.
Glad he's well rested, though.
He's very well rested. He flew in last night. Tucker's the big guy out. So I mentioned uranium jogged my memory about Hillary Clinton and the Uranium One deal and how they sold all the uranium to Russia, and everybody in the Obama administration was all in influence peddling. And then I got this story also in the Russia sphere, if you will, from the New York Post. Disgraced FBI agent Charles McGonigal, I don't know if that's how you say it. It sounds right. Who investigated the Trump's campaign ties to Moscow in 2016, is actually slated to take a guilty plea in the case accusing him of illegally working with a Russian oligarch. Oh, my bad, you guys. It was the Democrats. Oh, weird. Weird. The New York
Who would have
Post.
thought?
Oh,
What?
Oh my gosh, it's so weird,
This
you
is
guys.
crazy.
Hypocrisy and projection are the currency of the left. All right, so the court has been informed that defendant Charles McGonigal may wish to enter a change of plea. Manhattan federal judge Jennifer Reardon wrote in a brief filed Monday at a scheduled hearing for August 15th. Scheduling a hearing for August 15th. So that's when he's going to plead guilty. McGonigal, who's 54, was a former top FBI counterintelligence agent based in New York City, and he was indicted in January on charges including money laundering and violating U.S. sanctions by working for Russian billionaires and business magnate Oleg Deripaska, including trying to get him taken off of the U.S. sanctions list. McGonigal was legally required to report to the FBI his contact with foreign officials, but instead allegedly hid the ties, pursuing business and overseas travel that conflicted with his job. McGonigal pleaded guilty originally to the 4 counts, conspiring to violate and evade U.S. sanctions, money laundering, conspiring to commit money laundering, and conspiring to violate federal law against doing business with sanctioned individuals. He's been free on $500,000 bond since his arrest. But McGonigal, he played a central role in Russiagate, in the investigation of former President Donald Trump, which ultimately led to Robert Mueller going, meh, it was a nothing burger. After all the tax dollars that were spent, after all of the countless times Adam Schiff said, I got evidence, I got proof, I've seen it. I got it, you guys. McGonigal was one of those guys. The FBI has no credibility. McGonigal is one of those figures that just continually helps erode that credibility. McGonigal was also separately indicted in Washington, D.C. for allegedly hiding payments totaling $225K from a former member of Albania's intelligence service, which is crazy because I didn't even know Albania, had a legit intelligence service. And he also took a secret meeting with an Albanian prime minister. He pleaded not guilty in that case, which is still pending trial. McGonigal's lawyers didn't immediately return a request for comment Monday. So that's where we're at. Russia. The Democrats, if they're not peddling in influence, they're peddling in hypocrisy and projection, right? Disgraced FBI official Charles McGonigal, who investigated Trump's campaign's alleged ties to Moscow in 2016. Yep. He's pleading guilty. He was working with Russia. Are you shocked? I'm not shocked. Hey, Andy Ogles is going to be joining the show in just a few minutes. And I want to talk to him about Joe Biden impeachment, possible impeachment of Merrick Garland and Christopher Wray. Any questions that you want me to ask Andy, I want you to be a part of this process. 615-737-9986. Text in your questions. I want to hear from you. 615-737-9986. It's the Chris Hand Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. There was a recent study by J.D. Power looking at how happy investors were with their advisors, and it wasn't pretty. What they found was only 11% of the respondents said that they were getting comprehensive financial planning, that the fees were clear, and that they felt that the advisor was acting in their best interest. Not a good picture, 11%. Now, one of the things that we do is we do comprehensive planning. We fit all of those bills, number one. But one of the things I want to talk about is in the financial planning process, what I think it ought to look like and what is available that people aren't getting. And one of the things is called probability analysis. So in essence, this is what we're talking about. We're trying to accumulate money for retirement. Put money aside, hoping that we'll have enough so that we can have income throughout retirement. And what we find is that people have Social Security, they have pensions in their financial plan, and they also have investments. Now, with their investments, we want to do something very specific that it really requires quite an academic background to do this. And this is where we look at the cost of capital of the various things that you own in your investment portfolio. It sounds scary, it sounds really detailed, but here's the idea. Is if we look at various asset classes like large stocks and small stocks and large value and bonds and so on and so forth, we know the expected return or the cost that these entities have to pay to use your money. So we can come up with an expected return of the portfolio. We can also come up with what's called standard deviation, or how much that portfolio return may deviate from the expected return. Now that's a whole other video, but what I want to do is show you how we use this. If I look at a financial plan and I say, well, you got this area, this area, this area, what I can do is I can say, well, based on when you want to retire, this is how much income you can take, and here's the likelihood of being able to have this income survive throughout your entire life. And the way it works is this. If I take a portfolio and I say, there's the expected return, I can look at history and say, well, the way your portfolio is designed, how might your one-year returns vary from the expected return, the long-term expected return? Well, what we know from academic research is that portfolios well designed and properly managed in ways that I can't get into right now, it's too complicated, portfolios actually close in an expected return, but we don't know what the short-term returns are going to be. So what we do is we project out and say, well, what if the return that happened in 1936 is followed by the return that happened in 1975, which is followed by the return in 1995, or what if it's reversed? What if they happen in different orders? And we can do 1,000 iterations, different variations on when those and how those returns may come in. And what that does is, because we can't predict the future, what return's going to follow the other, we can figure out, is it likely that we are going to be able to take the income that we need throughout retirement from this portfolio? And if not, how can we rearrange the furniture or the portfolio to give us a higher likelihood of success? And we look at life expectancies, we look at a lot of different things, but this is what is available to people that they're not getting from the financial planning community. If you want to know more, go to paulwinkler.com, set up a free 15-minute phone call, paulwinkler.com, and come in and find out more about what we do.
Crooked Joe Biden cares only about enriching his own family, as you probably have heard.
Well, that's not true. You're saying things you do not know what you're talking about. No one said that. Who said that?
Who said that? It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand, and we're talking all things Biden corruption, joined on the phone by Congressman Andy Ogles. Andy, thanks for joining the Chris Hand Show. How are you?
I'm doing well, and you?
Hey, man, I can't complain. So what's the latest on impeaching Joe Biden, and where do you stand currently on that?
Well, so, I have articles of impeachment that I've offered on Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And so when we get back in September, so you have Jim Jordan has an investigation in a Judiciary Committee. Comer has one in the Oversight Committee, and they're both moving in that direction, albeit slowly. And I think my hope is that when we get back that second week of September, that we'll have a clear path and timeline as to when impeachment proceedings will happen. That being said, my impeachment articles can be offered as a privileged motion, and that's a technical term, meaning that I lay that on the desk there where the speaker is, and it forces a vote immediately. When I say immediately, I think it's 48 hours, but on impeachment. So I think it's go time. There's enough evidence to impeach Joe Biden 5-6 times, and I think the American people want to see that. And the backdrop to that is this persecution of Donald Trump. I've never seen in modern history, or quite frankly, in U.S. history, a time where a former president of the United States has so been systematically persecuted by woke district attorneys. And by the way, this should scare you. They don't like Donald Trump, so they're trying to destroy this man. And I would be appalled if this was happening to Obama. I don't agree with Obama on anything, but that being said, the fact that they can simply say, you know what, Chris, we don't like you, so we're going to come after you, that should scare you, it should scare me, and it should scare your listeners.
No, you're absolutely right. Media Research just actually released a report also saying, the media is in their pocket. There's been over 527 minutes of Trump indictment coverage and 0 seconds of Biden Burisma bribery coverage. Now, Kash Patel actually said something very interesting that I wanted to get your take on. He's of the opinion that impeaching Joe Biden almost could be political theater, and that the real route we should go is impeaching Merrick Garland and Christopher Wray, and the thought process being we can get more receipts of the corruption that way. How do you feel about that? And if that's something you're for, what would that process look like?
I don't disagree. The problem that we're running into is that we're going into the presidential cycle. I've got an app on my phone that I'm literally pulling it up right now. It's called Time Until. So the Iowa election is in 159 days, 23 hours, 20 minutes, and 57 seconds, right? And so we've got to get Joe Biden's record on the table before the House of Representatives, so the American people can really see what's going on here. Because the problem is that this corrupt media is really complicit in this persecution of Donald Trump. They don't have a choice but to cover the Biden impeachment, and there's an opportunity here to impeach Joe Biden on multiple for offenses, if you will, and we've got to reset the narrative. And so that's the problem is the clock is not our friend. I mean, you can also make a strong argument to impeach Mayorkas, the southern border. I mean, we have 300,000, between 250 and 300,000 people coming across our southern border every month. We've caught over 250 people coming across our southern border that are on the terror watch list. If that's not grounds for impeachment, if not treason, I don't know what is. But I think we've got to focus on the big guy, quote unquote, and we need to show the American people that we don't have a two-tier justice system and that we are fighting for them. Because again, this is a perilous times. We're inching towards Orwellian. It's a bad screenplay that would be revoked by any studio, and suddenly it's playing out in real time before our eyes.
No, and I agree with you that that they need to be held accountable for their crimes. But I talk to people every day, and a lot of people see this as nothing's going to happen, and that it's just going to be more wasted tax dollars, and that even with impeachment, it's going to get hung up in the Senate, and that at the end of the day, no consequences are going to be there for the Biden crime family. What do you say to the voting audience that's been blackpilled that no justice is coming?
Well, and I don't necessarily disagree. I mean, when you look at some of the spending and the energy policy that we've passed in the House of Representatives, that was good policy. It goes to the Senate to die a slow and painful death, but we still have an obligation to do our job, and so we have to rise to that occasion. We have to hold the Biden family, and part of that process is you're bringing the facts out into the open. So the American people you can like or dislike Donald Trump, but he told you Russia collusion was a hoax. We now know that it was a hoax. In fact, one of the FBI agents was actually colluding with Russia.
Yep.
I mean, again, it's important that this is vetted before the American people. You're not going to get a court system that's going to do it in a timely fashion. The House of Representatives can. We should, and I do believe that we're going to move forward on impeachment.
Yeah, I actually just covered that a second ago. The disgraced FBI official Charles McGonigal was investigating Trump's alleged ties to Moscow. Why does it seem like the new currency of the left is hypocrisy, projection, and influence peddling? It seems like those three things, the Democrats don't have a platform without them.
Well, I guess we'd have to go back and really look at time, but it seems during and now post-COVID that this radical left has been emboldened, and they're really, I guess there was a time that some of this would have been done more discreetly, but now they're emboldened. They feel untouchable, and again, I think, and I think it's right to say that currently in this country we have a two-tier justice system, that there are crimes that Hunter Biden is presumably guilty of, that if you and I did it, we'd be cellmates without doubt. I mean, if you were to post on social media or pictures were to be released of you and some woman, and there's a crack pipe and a gun in a hotel, I mean, the ATF and the DEA are going to be at your doorstep tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
If not tonight. But Hunter skates. And just because his last name is Biden. And so we've got to, I don't know that they'll ever go to jail. I don't know that we'll ever see that level of justice, but at least we can set the record straight and send a message to future Congresses that, if you and I have political differences, that'll be settled at the ballot box, not through these fake and woke persecutions that didn't work in the British Empire, this political retribution and imprisoning people. It didn't work in Rome. In fact, those signaled the end of the empires. We're hitting that 250 to 300 year mark where you see upheavals in empires. And folks, if we don't right our ship, if we don't get our spending under control, if we don't get back to law and order and justice in this country, there's a collision ahead, just like the Titanic, and it's going to be catastrophic. That's why I ran for Congress. That's why I'm fighting like HELL to save our republic, because what we're about to hand to our children is not the country that you and I grew up in.
Okay, cool. So that's in our backyard. I do want to ask you about overseas. Top Republican Mike Gallagher is slamming the CCP for promoting hostile activity after a possible bioweapons Chinese-run lab filled with dead mice and hazardous waste was found in California. What are your thoughts on that? And, the possibility of China having their hands in a bioweapon lab in America?
Well, I mean, I've been ringing the alarm bell since I got to Washington that the existential threat to the United States of America, when you look at external forces, so other countries, is China. It's not Russia. Quite frankly, the only reason Russia is kind of a world player is because they are a nuclear power. Aside from that, they really aren't that much of a factor, whether it's economically or militarily speaking.
Yep.
It's China. And they think in terms of dynasties. So whereas most countries we're a Starbucks society, meaning that we can't see past tomorrow or the next week, they're thinking in terms of 100 years. And so when you look at the balloon that they sent across our country, that at first we were lied to and told that it was just a weather balloon of some sort. Well, in fact, it was a spy balloon. It had capabilities. It was maneuverable. It crossed Middle Tennessee, and it threaded the needle between Oak Ridge and Fort Campbell and our Air Force Base here in the state. That wasn't by accident. And so if you are not aware of how much of a threat that the CCP is, that alone should wake you up. Then you look at the southern border and fentanyl. that's flooding our streets. Every small town in America is now a border town because of the CCP. China, literally, we know this. China is working with the Mexican cartels to get fentanyl on the streets of the United States of America. Why? They're trying to poison our country. And then, to your point, going to this lab, which was partially funded by Gavin Newsom's California, is that they're now testing bioweapons and dangerous viruses in our own country. Holy cow, America. I mean, wake up. And so that's why when we had the energy package, HB1, which was, trying to get United States of America back to energy independence, one of the amendments on that was mine, which banned the CCP from being able to mine on American land. And so they're a real threat, and I can argue either way on the war in Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia, but while we're wasting munitions and we're wasting money in Ukraine, we're not paying attention to this existential threat that is China. And a war with them invading Taiwan is imminent. Now, whether that's a year from now or 10 years from now, we won't know until it happens. But they are gearing up for a conflict in their sphere of influence. And keep in mind, whether it's supply chain, whether it's the size of their military, their shipbuilding capabilities, they've got us beat on those metrics right now. It's time for us to pay attention to China and make sure that they are our number one priority and quit diddling with Russia.
So why do you think there hasn't been really any big action or anything reported when we're seeing Chinese police stations in some of America's biggest cities, when we're seeing this biolab happening? Is Joe Biden absolutely compromised at this point by the Chinese?
Well, I think there's an argument to be made that compromised both by the Ukrainians and the Chinese. I mean, when you look at the Biden family's ties overseas and the monies that flowed in, there's some pretty strong evidence to that effect. And I think part of it is right now we're overly dependent on China for supply chains. So there's probably some hesitation from the business community, but we have to decouple. We saw it during COVID. So again, let's look at history and facts. During COVID, our supply chains were compromised, whether it's prescriptions or toilet paper or the essential items that you and I use every day, every week, we couldn't get during COVID. That's because it was coming from China. Mm-hmm. We've got to decouple. We've got to become more independent. We've got to have better partnership and trade with India and friendly places in South America. And on that front, with Chinese Belt and Road Initiative, they're moving into South America. They're moving into Central America to try to undermine us in our own North and South America spheres of influence. And guys, again, I tell you, CCP is on the move. They see us as weak. You can look at the withdrawal from Afghanistan, which was a disaster. You can look at Russia's move in Ukraine, which has been a foreign policy disaster. They are moving. We are a laughing stock on the world stage. When you have the president of the United States dozing off while he's in a meeting with a world leader, that is not the best look for America. I don't care whether you're Republican, Democrat, or somewhere in between.
No, you're absolutely right. It makes us look weak. And again, having a president that even appears to be compromised makes us look weak. So as we're seeing, no action really, it feels like no action's happening. It feels like no justice is coming. You said it yourself that you don't envision Joe Biden being in jail. But why is it that we can't walk and chew gum at the same time and impeach Biden, Mayorkas, Wray, and Garland all at the same time and get all of the receipts?
Again, I'm for it. That's why I put forward articles of impeachment because, I was the grassroots candidate. I've been working in policy and on the ground in Tennessee for a very long time, fighting for good policy, low taxes, and less government. I'm from the people. I'm of the people. And all I'm hearing is impeach, impeach, impeach. Let's hold Joe Biden, the Biden family accountable. And so, yes, and I think to your point with Mayorkas, Congressman Mark Green, who's the 7th District, Middle Tennessee up to Clarksville, I foresee him in the very near future moving forward with impeachment against Mayorkas. But again, ultimately, it's up to the Speaker of the House and those 3 chairs of those committees that I mentioned. But that being said, I think the natives are restless, if you will. The natives, meaning conservative members of Congress, we're ready to pull articles of impeachment and force a vote because that's what we're hearing at home. That's what the people want. And again, the clock is not our friend. January 15th, you're going to have the first votes cast for president of the United States. As of today, quote unquote, it looks like Biden is running. I'm not convinced that that's the case. But we're about to hit a presidential cycle, and we need to get this information out there, out front, and out in the open so the American people can see that the Democrat Party has sold out America as they try to be more like Europe and cozy themselves up to corrupt Russia and corrupt China.
So you had mentioned Speaker McCarthy. How is your current relationship with him? And when said he was going to get the speakership, he said one of the first things that he would do would be impeach Mayorkas. Why do you think he hasn't done that yet?
So as far as McCarthy goes, the speaker and I have a great relationship. President Trump has come out and endorsed me in my reelection, and then immediately after, McCarthy has done as well. And then I've got Scalise coming into town next week to do an event for me. So I've got a great relationship with the leadership, despite being one of the 20 who held up the speaker's race, despite being a member of the Freedom Caucus who's very outspoken. I think part of that is treating people with respect. And when you look at the freshman class, the last I looked, I've passed more amendments than any other freshman that's been elected in this last Congress. And quite frankly, I've got more amendments passed than many members of the House of Representatives. But part of that is we do the work, we get into the weeds on policy, we look for those areas where we can do things for the American people, like stopping China from mining in the United States of America, reducing the cost of oil leases so that companies can actually get back to, have their oil wells pumping oil and make us energy independent again. Those types of things, they're not very sexy, but it's the good work that has to be done. And so to your other part of the question, I think McCarthy has deferred to Congressman Green to let him build the case against Mayorkas. Green has been very very open in his communications that he's moving forward. And I foresee him putting a bow on this pretty quickly and moving forward with Mayorkas. I don't want to get ahead of the chairman. Mark and I are good friends, but I have faith that he's going to move forward.
All right, we're on the phone with Congressman Andy Ogles. It's the Chris Hand Show. Andy, we have about 1 minute left. Again, I just want to get your closing thoughts to Americans and people in Tennessee that are just disillusioned that justice is coming for the Biden regime, disillusioned that anything is going to be fixed on the border, disillusioned in general to the state of our country. What do you say to them? And we got about a minute.
I'll say two things. One is I'm out there fighting for you. I'm a voice and a light in the darkness, fighting to get these things in the forefront, and I'm not going to back down. I'm not going to stop swinging. I'm going to keep fighting. And you know what? And we've moved, we being the conservative faction, we've moved Congress to the right, made it more conservative. There's a lot more work to be done. But I would also caution back home. We're looking at a special session with the State General Assembly, looking at doing things to take away your rights to bear arms. I think you need to call your member of the General Assembly and say, stop. Don't infringe on my right to bear arms. And if I was a member of the General Assembly, I'm not. I would immediately move to gavel out. And if we get called back again, I would move again to gavel out. What happened at the Covenant School was a travesty, but it was committed by a sick individual who was under the care of doctors. And taking guns away from hardworking, law-abiding citizens doesn't fix that. It doesn't address the root problem and the cause. And what's frustrating about me is this was the perfect opportunity to talk about mental health, the mental health crisis that is taking place in this country. So if you want to call a special session, call a special session on mental health and what you're going to do to fix that. That helps America. That helps our community. Taking away guns does not.
Amen. That's Andy Ogles. Andy, thank you for joining the Chris Hand Show. I really appreciate it, man.
Absolutely, buddy. Take care.
All right, you too. It is 9:54 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
from ABC News. I'm Sherry Preston. State leaders in Maryland say cleanup from this week's severe storms will take days. 50,000 people are still without power from a line of severe weather that moved up from the south. But Baltimore Gas and Electric CEO says they're working to restore it quickly.
At the height, we had 120,000 customers out of service, 56,000 in Carroll County alone. We are down to about 52,000. We are making good progress.
ABC's Trevor Ault is at New York's LaGuardia Airport with more on the thousands of weather-related flight disruptions on Monday.
While everyone was impacted, Delta and Southwest were hit particularly hard. Delta had 400 flight cancellations. Southwest had 1,500 flight delays. And while today could be a little bit better, the fact that we're already seeing so many cancellations does not bode well.
Ukraine is accusing the Kremlin of deliberately targeting rescue workers. ABC News chief foreign correspondent Ian Pannell is in Kyiv.
First responders called to the scene of a devastating Russian strike on the eastern Ukrainian city of Pokrovsk. And as residents and rescuers worked frantically through the rubble, a second Russian rocket exploding at the exact same spot just 37 minutes after the first attack. A deadly double-tap strike almost guaranteed to kill and maim rescuers.
3 o'clock Eastern time this afternoon, the deadline the judge in former President Trump's election interference trial has given for coming up with a time for another court hearing involving how much and what he can say about the indictment.
Last night, there was a series of blistering motions filed by the special counsel and Trump's attorneys to Judge Tanya Chutkan. Trump's team claims that the government is overreaching, saying that a weekend post from Trump, which said, "If you go after me, I'm coming after you," is generalized political speech. But the special counsel says Trump is trying to, quote, try this case in the media rather than in the courtroom.
It's ABC's Pierre Thomas. If you're feeling lucky, tonight's Mega Millions jackpot has grown to $1.5 billion. This is ABC News.
Is this thing on? Super Talk 99.7 WTN 10:06. My name is Chris Hand. Mac Maury is my producer.
Hey, there it is. That's
Mac
the name.
Meducer. All right, yeah. We just had Andy Ogles on the show. Thank you for all your questions. You're very, very helpful. You can always be a part of the show. I love it when you chime in. 615-737-9986. I missed one question from 1916 I wish I had a chance to ask. He said, ask Ogles if he's as corrupted as the rest of them on both sides of the aisle. Oh, I missed it. Sorry, 1916. I'll do that next time. I promise. Sarah also texted in. She said, Chris, I love your show, but the bumper music is not you. Tell your producer to find some edgy rock for your bumper music. I just got to say, I chose all my bumper music.
Yeah, that's you, man.
I literally, I chose all of it.
And I'm a huge fan.
It's very me. So that's that. I just wanted to clear that up. Clearing things up, Anthony Blinken, Antony, which is it's just so dumb. Anthony.
It's annoying.
Old Anthony. Anthony Blinken, he's an idiot. I just wanted to clear that up.
All right, next topic. Moving on.
Do you want me to develop, or let me develop the thought a little bit? All right, so this is what he tweeted out. He tweeted out the other day. The United States strongly condemns Russia's conviction of opposition leader Alexei Navalny on politically motivated charges. The Kremlin cannot silence the truth. Navalny should be released. Yep. That's just the old Antony Blinken saying that, Russia's going after their enemies politically.
What a ridiculous clown show.
It's an absolute clown show, Nancy. Thank you very much. So dumb. That's who's in leadership in Washington. That's the current regime. Old Antony. He has no idea how tone deaf he is. No idea. All right. I mean, everybody ripped him. Everybody ripped him over the weekend after he issued that tweet condemning political prosecution of an opposition leader. Solid. This was the day, the tweet came the day after Trump was arraigned on federal charges, alleging that he orchestrated a plan to overturn the results of the 2020 election. Yep. This is our leadership, you guys. These are the smart, brave men in charge. This is the adults back at the table. Matt Gaetz said, just Antony tweeting that gives us the opening to be just completely trolled by Russia, and he's absolutely right.
Without a hint of irony, and the sad thing is that this is an effective troll for Vladimir Putin. We've literally put Vladimir Putin in a position to clown us and troll us on the global stage by engaging in this legal tomfoolery against Navalny, when then in turn you see Joe Biden literally putting his principal political opponent in this precarious position with the intersection of criminal law and our politics. And when you've got Joe Biden calling in to Hunter Biden's dinner parties, it's Joe Biden that's on the menu. He's not just there chatting with these folks. It's a demonstration of a corrupt influence that they have built their family on, that they've built this presidency on, and that we don't want our government built on.
He said Joe Biden is on the menu. Absolutely. I mean, hypocrisy and projection is the new currency of the left. I've said it a couple times today, but it's just the truth. That's what they're dealing with. You can't jail political opponents. The left screams as they try and jail political opponents. You can't deny elections. They wail on the left as they continue to deny 2016. You can't interfere in elections. Asking Ukraine to look into Burisma, they say, while they hide Hunter Biden's laptop. This is the people that we're dealing with. These are the adults at the table. It's an alt-right QAnon conspiracy, darn it. That's what they shout.
Well, if anyone's guilty of a conspiracy to deprive rights around the 2020 election, I think we've proven it's the FBI.
Absolutely. 100%. The FBI is as crooked as they come. Need I remind you that ex-FBI official Charles McConnell, I don't know how you pronounce it. Anyway, he's a loser FBI agent that was investigating Trump's ties to Moscow in 2016. And now he's pleading guilty in a case accusing him of illegally working for a Russian oligarch. They only peddle in hypocrisy. This is what we're dealing with.
Hey, Merrick Garland, the call is coming from inside the House. It wasn't Trump. It was the FBI out there trying to shape the information domain so that people didn't have access to the information about the very real crimes that were being committed by the Biden family. And just for a moment, let's take the defense and the facts most favorably to the Bidens. What they're saying is that, well, everyone's engaged in familial influence peddling.
Yep.
This is just how Washington works. You take money from foreigners who want to influence our government, and you convert that into policy making for them. And gosh, the reason that's not a crime is because it's so pervasive.
Oh, it's so pervasive. You know, I'm of the opinion that this influence peddling, dabbling in the last name games that get you rich in D.C., it should be a crime for everyone on both sides. Full stop. I'm not going to hold my breath till I'm blue in the face waiting for that to happen. But we can all agree it doesn't benefit you. It doesn't benefit myself. It doesn't benefit your family, my family. It doesn't benefit the taxpayers. It doesn't benefit the country. It benefits no one but the political elite ruling class who, we aren't ever allowed to criticize. Need I remind you?
The defense that you're a sleazebag, not a crook, doesn't really work too well when you're about to face another presidential contest.
No. And that's the new defense on the left, by the way. If you've been keeping score at home, they went from Joe Biden never talked with Hunter about the business to Joe Biden wasn't involved in the business to Joe Biden talked about the weather, not the business, to everybody does it and it's not illegal. This is what we're dealing with.
The defense that you're a sleazebag, not a crook, doesn't really work too well when you're about to face another presidential contest.
No, I mean, it won't work. But that's the way they're pivoting. That's the new game plan for the left. That's the current audible that they have called on the field for the left as more revelations continue to drip out. Ever so slowly, mind you, and the American public learns more information about the extent of the influence peddling that wasn't just happening with the Biden crime family, but was happening, it seems like it was pervasive throughout the entire Obama administration. Like we talked about earlier today with Hillary Clinton and her Uranium One deal, selling all that to Russia, and it benefited the Clinton Global initiatives. But there's, of course, the influence peddling, it's pervasive. It's not illegal, though, guys. Don't worry. Everybody does it. Just a load of crap. But, though at the same time they do all that, they'll try and tell you and myself that there's no thumbs on the scale of justice against Trump, guys. Don't be a conspiracy theorist. The Justice Department is independent.
With what we see from Jack Smith, it sure is something that we've just now found out that the third member of his prosecutorial team, a donor to Joe Biden's presidential prospects and other Democrats. Not a lot of Trump donors on the Jack Smith team. They're not even hiding the fact that bias is built in to this double standard they're executing.
No, bias is absolutely built in. And was there ever any question on who's the third man? I mean, this isn't 1996 in WCW where we're dealing with the NWO. We are dealing with the NWO, but we knew that the third man, by God, was going to be a left-wing ideologue because that's who Jack Smith has in his camp. And mind you, Jack Smith is the strongest prosecutor ever and just a great guy who was hit by a truck once and still ran a triathlon and then saved puppies from a burning building. That's the Jack Smith we're dealing with.
He's got grit, Chris. He's got grit.
He's got so much grit. Matt Gaetz didn't elaborate on Jack Smith's grit there, so I felt the need to jump in and defend Jack Smith a little bit.
I mean, come on.
He's an animal.
Dude, he's a monster.
He literally, he's the best special counsel we've ever had. So I don't want to take everything away from him. But all he does is put ideologues on his team. All he does is line up more left-wing crazies. Like, if Jack Smith needed somebody on his team and he walked outside and he just had to find anybody, he would pick the first person he saw with blue hair and be like, you're you're on the team. You're the number 1 draft pick. That's how Jack Smith is picking his team, it feels like. Are you shocked? I don't think there's nothing that shocks us anymore. Meanwhile, last night on the Ingram angle, which I don't watch, I'll be perfectly honest with you. I caught the Cliff Notes version on the internet, like you probably do, because I don't know. She's smart. She's great. I just don't think the show's for me. Fox News in general isn't really for me. It's the Paul Ryan network. But anyway, last night on Ingram Angle, Laura had a guest on that I do like, Breitbart News' Peter Schweizer, and he stated that Hunter Biden's 2020 resignation from the board of the Chinese government-backed BHR Equity Investment Fund wasn't because, it was an integrity issue because Joe was, the president or running for president at the time. No. He resigned from that Chinese government-backed equity investment fund management company because he was exposed by Schweizer's book, Secret Empires. Yeah. It had nothing to do with integrity. No. Schweizer said he stepped down from the board because they got caught with their hand in the cookie jar. Hunter Biden joined that board and got an equity stake in this Chinese government-funded financial firm shortly after he was in China on Air Force Two with his father, where he introduced his Chinese business partner, to his father. Shocking, right? And he gave up the board position, his visible board position, because the book Secret Empires, which was out in 2018, exposed the relationship. He stepped back from the board, but he retained his ownership stake, which scholars at the University of Chicago estimate is about $20 million for Hunter Biden. So it was a sweetheart deal for Hunter, no question about it, says Peter Schweizer. $20 million from China. Weird. Must be a coincidence. Must be the old last name, just so happened to be helping Hunter out again. It's not shocking. Mac, you just have a look. Mac doesn't even look mad. He just looks disappointed.
I have so much anger spin into this that I can't invest anymore. I'm going to explode. So I'm just, at this point, I'm just shrugging.
It's like,
just throwing my hands up.
I'm already angry. I can't get any angrier.
That's all I have.
We're supposed to have a fun show. We're supposed to be the fun
You're
show,
right.
Mac.
You're right. Let me liven up.
But none of this shocks us. And it's also not shocking when you see a Gallup poll say that Americans don't see the president as ethical. Oh, weird. You don't?
What?
Gallup highlighted the results on Thursday, which said just 4 in 10 Americans say that top Biden administration officials' ethical standards are excellent or good, while the majority, 55%, say they are not good or poor. Polls at the same time are showing people view the indictments against Trump as politically motivated. What? No, I don't think that's true. The Justice Department is independent, you guys. Who is doing these polls?
That's garbage.
What about the legitimacy of the 2020 election? I mean, it's so fascinating to me that we're 3 years past that, and we are just now getting some Republican candidates like Ron DeSantis acknowledging that Trump lost the election, which we all know to be the case.
Oh, we all know that that's the case. Now even Ron DeSantis is saying it, so it must be true.
But what are voters saying about the legitimacy of the election?
Yeah, I think that's going to be fascinating going forward in the campaign, too, because the other component of this, Caitlin, is what they see as political motivation, right? You see this big number here of 71% of Republicans that think the indictment is politically motivated.
71% of Republicans think that the indictments are politically motivated. I have to ask, can somebody check on the other 29%?
Are you okay?
Are they all right? Where is that other 29%? I fear for them. I hope that they're not they haven't careened off into a ditch somewhere, dealing with the anger that Mac is dealing with when he hears all the news. Mac is not normally an angry guy, so this is very this is jarring.
It takes a lot, man. It takes a lot.
It takes a lot to anger Mac, but people see these indictments as political. Crazy conspiracy theorists. Take the tinfoil hat off, guys. It's 10:20 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, it's Chris Hand for Paul Winkler Inc. And as you know, my last name isn't Biden, so my retirement plan is on me, not the family name. And when it was just on me, I didn't have a plan, really. I got 4 kids. Financial stability is very important. It's a big priority for myself and my wife, as you can imagine, thinking about paying for college, paying for weddings. And we didn't really have a plan. But after I got to meet with Paul Winkler and his team, I feel a lot more confident about it. Now, I've been a listener of Paul's radio show since I moved to Nashville, and when I got to meet with him, I realized he's the same guy I heard on the air. He's smart, he's honest, he's legit. I was all in. And because of Paul's high standards, the government regulators require that I tell you that I'm paid every time this commercial airs. But it was because I got to sit down with Paul and have my financial questions answered honestly that I decided to become a client myself. I'm impressed. Paul's a smart guy. He knows the financial world better than I do. And with Paul and his team, nothing is done on commission. So they are big on education. He's made my financial goals way more realistic by explaining what to do and why. And the investment education is evidence-based and backed by Nobel Prize-winning research. You should check them out. Every office is run by a degreed planner with over 20 years experience. And you can feel the difference between Paul's team and the rest. Experience equals confidence. Do what I did. Talk to one of his team members. Set up a complimentary 15-minute phone call right now at paulwinkler.com. That's paulwinkler.com or call 615-851-1950. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Thank you for being here on the Chris Hand Show. You can always be a part of the show. 615-737-9986 is the super text line. We were talking about, all the crazy conspiracy theories They're everywhere. They're everywhere. And while we're dealing with the Biden crime family and the war of the political nature that we're dealing with in Washington, D.C., we also have a culture war going on. Neo, of all people. Do you know Neo, Mac? The R&B singer?
Yeah, R&B guy. Yeah. Early mid 2000s.
Yeah. So he's not like a huge guy, but he's getting a ton of flack today.
Oh, okay.
Because he said something controversial.
Here we go.
All right. So how much you want to bet it's just like something normal?
Just super
All right.
regular.
Without seeing the comments, what do you think he could have said that would get him in trouble?
Did he say something about genders?
Oh, you knew it.
Oh gosh.
I swear Mac didn't have any of the notes before this. All right, so Neo's under fire. This is what he said. He said, "I just personally come from an era where a man was a man and a woman was a woman. And there was two genders. And that's just how I rocked. You could identify as a goldfish if you feel like. I don't care. That ain't my business. It becomes my business when you try to make me play the game with you. I'm not going to call you a goldfish, but if you want to be a goldfish, you go be a goldfish. We live in a weird time, man. We do."
That was pretty base.
Immediately canceled.
Get out of here, Neo.
How dare you? How dare you? But no, he went on a little bit further on the matter of kids being able to change their gender. He had what some are calling stronger opinions. So not just regular opinions, but like opinions on steroids. And these strong opinions, they said, were aimed at parents. This is what Neo said. He said, "I feel like parents have almost forgotten what the role of a parent is. If your little boy comes to you and says, 'Daddy, I want to be a girl,' and you just let him rock with that, he's 5. If you let this 5-year-old boy decide to eat candy all day, he's going to do that. When did it become a good idea to let a 5-year-old, let a 6-year-old, let a 12-year-old make a life-changing decision for themselves? When did that happen? I don't understand. He can't drive a car yet, but he can decide his sex." So Neo is obviously just in the crosshairs of the left-wing Mockingbird media. And to that I say, based.
Very based. Exactly what I thought.
Absolute based Neo. And here's the thing that's even funnier. The media is trying to say he's apologized. They're all saying he's apologized. And they want this to go away. This is my thoughts. They want the Neo thing to go away because the left already knows that they're hanging by a thread with the black community. So they want to make it seem like all of the thought leaders in the community bend the knee. And you're seeing it, right? Rolling Stone, 14 hours ago, their headline was, "Neo apologizes for criticizing parents who support children deciding their gender identity." Billboard magazine said, "Neo apologizes for comments on parenting and gender identity. I plan to better educate myself on the topic." CNN said Neo apologizes for comments about parents of trans kids. Now, with all that said, I just want to ask you, does this sound like an apology to you?
Somebody asked my opinion on this matter, and this is how I feel. I will never be okay with allowing a child to make a decision that detrimental to their life. I will never be okay with that. I don't care. I definitely plan to educate myself a little bit more on this matter. However, I doubt that there's any book anywhere or any opinion that somebody's going to tell me that's going to make me okay with letting a child make a decision like that. That's just period, point blank, and that's how I feel. If I get canceled for this, then you know what? Maybe this is a world where they don't need a Neo no more.
Does that sound like an apology?
0%.
And they isolate that one little clip. I'll educate myself more. And that's what they put. Billboard magazine. Neo apologizes for comments on parenting and gender. I plan to better educate myself on the topic was the Billboard headline.
That detrimental to their life. I will never be okay with that. I don't care. I definitely plan to educate myself a little bit more on this matter. However, I doubt that there's any book anywhere or any opinion that somebody's going to tell me that's going to make me okay with letting a child make a decision like that.
So you see what they do? They just are manipulating public consciousness. This is Mockingbird media at its best. Of course, it's not an apology. The culture war, my friends, the culture war wages on. And I know Neo is like a random guy to get behind, but I feel like we, even though these figures are small in the grand scheme of things, And sure, Neo may not be as relevant as he once was, but every time another person stands up, we get stronger. It makes the next person less afraid. And Neo may not change the world. People like J.K. Rowling may not change the world. Jason Aldean may not change the world. But each of them have an opportunity to spark the mind of somebody that could change the world. So don't discount these little victories, okay? Don't discount Kirk Cameron getting the librarian in Hendersonville fired, okay? Celebrate the wins. All right, we're regaining territory as sane individuals in clown world. It's big, it's worthwhile, and it's worth celebrating. This is the Chris Hand Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. The Super Text line is one of my favorite parts of the show. 615-737-9986. 5448 texted in. Terry said, Chris, I've missed a lot of your show today. And to that I say, Terry, come on, man.
You know when we start, Terry?
It's the same time every day, Terry. What's going on? Do we need somebody to check on Terry? But he did. Terry had a great comment. So I don't want to harp on Terry too much, even though the show starts at 9, Terry.
9:05. Come on, Terry. Let's go.
Like, I expect Mac to be late, but Terry, we need you here.
We need you on time, Terry.
All right. So, but he said about Super Jack and the partisans on his team, obviously talking about the world's greatest prosecutor, Super Jack Smith.
Super Jack. That's good.
Super Jack, who can get hit by a truck and continue on. Nothing can stop him. So about Super Jack and the partisans on his team, remember Bob Mueller? His team were all Hillary Clinton supporters and donors. But since the DOJ and mainstream media are Democrats, no conflicts of interest were reported. Well, it's because there were no conflicts of interest, obviously. It would be just dabbling in the tinfoil to think anything else, Terry. Come on, man.
Come on, man. It's ridiculous.
Come on. We don't dabble in conspiracy theories, Terry. You know better than us. You would have known that if you were here at 9, Terry.
Yeah.
All right. So lots of stuff coming out about Donald Trump. Did you know that he's getting indicted?
What?
I know. This is crazy. No, all right. But so realistically, there is some stuff. The judge in the Mar-a-Lago classified documents case, okay? So it is so confusing to try and keep up with Donald Trump's court proceedings.
It's a lot.
And I think this is by design, because you
sure.
start talking about the judge and you're like, I don't know what case you're talking about. So just for the sake of the conversation, the judge in the Trump Mar-a-Lago classified documents case, that's what we're talking about right now. The classified documents that were at Mar-a-Lago that everybody knew about, that he had free reign to declassify because he was the president, and I don't want to talk about Joe Biden's documents by his Corvette. They were safe because they were behind his Corvette.
But by the way, my Corvette's in a locked garage.
The garage was locked. Okay? Got that clear? We don't want to dabble in the tinfoil. All right? All right. So the judge in that case for Donald Trump demands to know why the Department of Justice wants to use a grand jury from out of state as she hands Jack Smith multiple blows. Jack Smith hasn't been hit like this since that truck got him when he was training for the triathlon.
Jack Smith's iron jaw is somehow taking a blow right now?
I'm nervous that this is only going to make Jack Smith stronger. But the federal judge in the classified documents case on Monday asked prosecutors why they had used grand juries in Florida and in Washington to build their case when charges were filed in South Florida. Judge Eileen Cannon, who was appointed by Trump, they make sure to say in the Mockingbird media, asked special counsel Jack Smith and his team to respond by August 22nd. So Jack Smith can get hit by a truck and run a triathlon, but he's hitting the wall with Judge Cannon. He can handle a truck, but he can't handle a cannon. This is what Judge Cannon took to a court filing and wrote. She said, the response shall address the legal propriety of using an out-of-district grand jury proceeding to continue to investigate and or to seek post-indictment hearings on the matters pertinent to the instant indicted matter in this district. Trump appeared in Miami federal court in June, pled not guilty to those charges of document cover-ups. So since then, the indictment has been expanded to accuse him and 2 aides. They say aides now. Wasn't it his gardener and his maintenance man?
Yeah, what?
This is the language that they use. Since then, the indictment has been expanded to accuse him and 2 aides. Like, no. The gardener and the maintenance man. So dumb. So anyway, they're after Trump and the gardener and the maintenance man, right? and they think that they're trying to evade government efforts to retrieve some 32 classified documents. Yep. Judge Eileen Cannon on Monday asked the special counsel Jack Smith why he used those grand juries when charges were filed in South Florida. And he has until August 22nd to respond. Cannon asked Smith to justify using those grand juries and Jack Smith had asked to introduce additional evidence under seal, preventing it from being published in order to protect the secrecy of a grand jury. He even asked the judge for a hearing to determine whether Nata's attorney had too many conflicts of interest to guarantee proper representation of his client. Cannon knocked back those requests to introduce evidence under seal. The motion for leave and the supplement plainly failed to satisfy the burden of establishing a sufficient legal or factual basis to warrant sealing the motion and supplement, she wrote. So that's the latest in one of the 3 cases that Trump is facing. It's confusing to keep up with. And I don't want you to think that it's going to get any less confusing. Okay? Because it's not. Spoiler alert. It's not going to get any less confusing because we have a 4th case on the way. Yep. Who's the 4th man? All right, the 4th case is on the way in Georgia any day now. And I'm sure that they're waiting for another big Hunter Biden revelation to then drop what's happening in Georgia. But, any day now.
What exactly are we expecting, at least, in the charges against Trump in Georgia?
Well, I think it's a little premature to speculate just yet in the sense that, A, we don't even have a charging decision. We do know we are nearing that window in the sense that you can probably see behind me there are barricades that have been set up. And while there were some set up last week, now the street outside of the courthouse is officially closed down. So reading all of these tea leaves in terms of the increased and enhanced security and the declining foot traffic within the courthouse, that does suggest that we are getting closer to this period where we expect District Attorney Fani Willis to present her evidence to one of 2 grand juries. And we expect that could happen really in a matter of days.
Any day now. Any day now. And also, I refuse to call her Fani Willis. It's old Fannie Willis to me.
Fannie.
She'll always be Fannie to me. But yeah, matter of days, right? And the barricades have been there for a while. I'm reading tea leaves as well. Did you know that I dabble in tea leaf reading?
Wow.
And again, I just think that they're waiting for this next charge to drop it on the heels of a new Biden crime family revelation. Or just waiting to change the news cycle. That's what the left does. They control the narrative. They've been trying so hard to control the narrative lately, and they've been trying so hard not to cover all of the Devon Archer revelations that have been coming out. In fact, the 4 Mockingbird Media Sunday morning news shows, which used to be like must-see TV. Historically, they would recap the biggest political news stories of the week, completely avoided the Devon Archer testimony. Didn't touch on the Tucker Carlson interviews that fueled even more questions into President Biden's involvement in the business with Hunter. I mean, and we all know that the testimony by now, he alleged that Hunter put his father on speakerphone during business meetings 20 times. And that the execs from Burisma and the Ukrainian energy company, that both Biden and Archer were hired as board members, called D.C. to get the Ukrainian prosecutor fired. Joe Biden's on video bragging about it. Son of a bee, he got fired. However, Grabian transcripts show none of the Sunday morning newscasts on CNN, ABC, CBS, or NBC making any mention of the Archer testimony. Some of them did cover Hunter Biden controversies, but of course it was just to say it wasn't illegal. Everybody's doing it. So yeah. The Grabian receipts show none of the Sunday morning news shows even touched it. And you might be asking yourself, what is Grabian? I'll give you some inside baseball on Grabian. It's basically a website that we use in media and in politics, right? Where you can just type in keywords and pull clips from anything. So like, say I'm Andy Ogle's team, right? I'll go in and I'll check, all the big news news stations. I'm only using Andy Ogles because he was on the show today, so he's top of mind. So like if I'm Andy Ogles' PR person, I'll check all the boxes: CNN, ABC, CBS, Fox, and then I'll type in Andy Ogles and do a search. And basically anything that's aired on those networks gets encoded with metadata and is cataloged, so that way you can pull it later. It's a really easy way for campaigns, political factions, politicians to use to figure out who's saying what and where. So when they say Grabian transcripts, that's what they mean. It's this service that a lot of these people use to gather up and take the public temperature on things. So Devon Archer was mentioned 0 times when you typed in the Grabian into Grabian on the Sunday stuff. So that's the inside baseball on Grabian. I wanted to make sure I explained it so it wasn't just like random and floating out there. But I mean, it's a good service. It's useful. People use it for good. It's not like a creepy thing. But yeah, no mention of Devon Archer. Weird. I mean, there was some mention of Hunter. And again, when they did, I just want to drive it home. It was just to say, nothing's happening. It's not illegal. That's the new pivot. That's the new narrative. When they mentioned Hunter, it was to say he did nothing wrong. Are you not entertained? I'm entertained. I mean, we all know what's going on with the Bidens. The media knows too. And you know who else knows? Byron Donalds. He knows what's going on with the Bidens.
I think that just the reality of what's happened around Joe Biden, this web of corruption that exists around him, that actually he set up purposefully. And let me state it this way. He and his son, back in 2012, 2013, started setting up all these accounts. When Barack Obama gave Hunter Biden basically authority over several Eastern Bloc countries and other countries from a foreign policy perspective, who was on Air Force Two with Joe Biden all the time? Who? It was Hunter Biden. Oh. And don't cry me the river about Beau Biden. Beau Biden dying is a tragedy, and it's wrong. And I'm sorry that happened to him. But you got to understand that every time Joe Biden gets into political trouble, what does he do? He pulls on the heartstrings of Beau Biden.
Byron Donalds is absolutely ruthless. And he's so on point. The media will try and tell you Hunter and Joe talked every day because of Beau. Oh, it was the death of Beau. May he rest in peace. But that's revisionist history. They talked every day because they were in business together. They were influence peddling. They were making money, big money, not like loose change, not $20 here and there, not even big money to you and I, right? We're not talking big money to us. We're talking life-changing money, generational wealth. That's the kind of money they were making. And they were on the phone every day to talk about that, not Beau Biden. And Byron doesn't buy it. And Byron Donalds continues. And he is absolutely ruthless. What he says here elevates him to a new tier of favorite politician for me.
Hunter Biden didn't care that he was basically sleeping with his brother's widow when he was still married to his wife. So obviously it wasn't that big of a problem for Hunter Biden.
Whoa. Yup. Did you know that? Hunter Biden slept with his brother's widow while he was still married.
Wow.
That's who we're dealing with. So if you don't have a problem, if you don't have a problem sleeping with your dead brother's wife, then I'm sure that you're not so heartbroken that you need to talk about Beau every day with dad. Sorry. I don't know what to tell you, but I don't feel bad for you. But Byron Donalds doesn't either. I mean, absolute beast mode Byron.
Hunter Biden didn't care that he was basically sleeping with his brother's widow when he was still married to his wife. So obviously it wasn't that big of a problem for Hunter Biden.
Savage. Absolutely savage. But again, I've said this before. Slimy Washington is slimy, right? It's on both sides. And Byron says what a lot of us feel. It needs to stop. Whether your last name is Biden or any other political family, no more pay for play.
There's a web of corruption around Joe Biden. We in Congress have a responsibility to hold that accountable, because if you don't, all you're going to do is invite more corruption, not less. It must be held accountable, and the message must be sent to all politicians, Republicans and Democrats.
Amen.
You cannot be involved in a pay-for-play scandal. There is no, so you can't be allowed in public involved in public corruption.
Amen.
Or quid pro quos.
Amen.
And you can't use your family to do the dirty work while you just sit there and talk about weather on the phone.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Byron. It is 10:51 on the Chris Hand Show. Be a part of the show. 615-737-9986 for the Super Text line. It is 10:51 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, it's Chris Hanford, Jeff Eddy, Efficient Heating and Cooling, and I know how hard it can be to find someone you trust when it comes to large home repairs, and that includes heating and cooling. I mean, do you know how to fix your own air conditioner? No. Do you know when an air conditioner repairman is lying to you? Probably not. But with Jeff Eddy's Efficient Heating and Cooling, you don't have to worry about that. If you're trying to make the decision to repair or replace your system, Jeff and his crew will walk you through every option and scenario so that you can make an informed decision. Most companies will pressure you to just replace the system. They make more money that way. But Jeff Eddy is a good man, an honest man, a Christian guy who just wants you to make the right decision. And Efficient will offer you up to 18 months same as cash financing on your next unit. They're a diamond contractor with Mitsubishi Electric, an Elite Pro partner with Rheem. Go to efficienthvac.net for more info, or if it's an emergency, like it would be today if you didn't have your AC, call 615-784-4424. That's 615-784-4424 for Jeff Eddy's Efficient HVAC. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm getting a lot of reaction from the Byron Donalds audio via the Super Text line, 615-737-9986. Super Texter 8212 said, I love Byron. Hope he puts his hat in the ring in 28. I'd vote for him all day. I said, yeah, him or Tucker. I'd be down. In case you missed it, this was Byron Donalds talking about the Biden crime family.
I think that just the reality of what's happened around Joe Biden, this web of corruption that exists around him, that actually he set up purposefully. And let me state it this way. He and his son, back in 2012, 2013, started setting up all these accounts. When Barack Obama gave Hunter Biden basically authority over several Eastern Bloc countries and other countries from a foreign policy perspective, who was on Air Force Two with Joe Biden all the time? It was Hunter Biden. And don't cry me the river about Beau Biden. Beau Biden dying is a tragedy, and it's wrong. I'm sorry that happened to him.
He's an absolute beast. And he even went on to say, they want us to care about Beau Biden, but Hunter never cared about Beau Biden.
Hunter Biden didn't care that he was basically sleeping with his brother's widow when he was still married to his wife. So obviously it wasn't that big of a problem for Hunter Biden.
It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Alert still stretching across parts of the Southwest all the way to North Carolina, and another round of severe storms are the concern in the Midwest all the way to New England. Flood watch is in effect for New Hampshire and parts of Maryland, still cleaning up from Monday's storms that knocked out trees and power. Flights also impacted again today with cancellations building. ABC's Trevor Ault is at New York City's LaGuardia Airport.
While everyone was impacted, Delta and Southwest were hit particularly hard. Delta had 400 flight cancellations. Southwest had 1,500 flight delays, and while today could be a little bit better, the fact that we're already seeing so many cancellations does not bode well.
On the ballot today in Ohio, an initiative to change the threshold needed to approve changes to the state's constitution. The voter outcome could impact an abortion access measure on the ballot later this year. Here's ABC's Stephanie Ramos.
In November, voters in Ohio will decide whether to pass a constitutional amendment to protect the right to an abortion. Today, though, voters decide on a question known as Issue 1, which could have a major impact on whether the right to an abortion becomes part of the state constitution later this fall.
At the White House, First Lady Jill Biden leading talks on how schools can combat cyber threats, with government and the private sector joining forces to shore up cybersecurity within school districts. Education Secretary Miguel Cardona says it requires planning from all involved to help keep students safe.
We need to be proactive about this. We need to get the best thinking from all over the country. Be proactive, not wait for emergencies to happen, to make sure we have a plan.
Amazon Web Services is jumping in, offering $20 million to help battle hacking and cybercrimes. That money is earmarked for K through 12 schools and will be used to help with training and adding resources in the case that a school system falls under attack. You're listening to ABC News.
Hey, it's Chris Hand for the Dr. Gill Center. I know so many people that have dealt with opioid addiction. It is awful to see, and that's why I'm a big fan of the Dr. Gill Center. Don't take a pill. Call Dr. Gill. No pills necessary. Whether you're dealing with back pain, neck pain, knee pain, any kind of pain, it can all be treated with no needles and no downtime. At the Dr. Gill Center, we've been helping people get back to a pain-free life for over 30 years. Could you imagine dealing with pain for years, sometimes even longer than that, decades? Well, Dr. Gill doesn't want you to deal with that. Dr. Gill wants you to get back to pain-free life. And right now, the Dr. Gill Center has a special offer for you if you're suffering with pain and you're looking for non-surgical solutions. Right now, just $49 gets you all of your initial examination, x-ray, and a complete review of findings. So less than $50 to find out what's causing your pain. Give the Dr. Gill Center in Franklin a call now and begin your journey in becoming pain-free. Call 615-882-4838. That's 615-882-4838. And tell them that Chris Hand told you to call. And remember, don't take a pill. Call Dr. Gill. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's Chris Hand. It's 11:05. Sorry, my thought process just got so derailed. 3834 texted in, Wendy. I can only assume that she's being sarcastic. But, it was very monotone, this statement that I just got sent. It said, y'all mad at Joe Biden for simply being a loving father. Yep. That's
it. Yeah, for sure.
Nailed it. You got us.
Dang it, we've been caught red-handed.
I hate good dads.
Well, then you'd hate yourself, right, Chris? You're a great dad.
I do. Sometimes I hate myself. It's the truth. 6024 texted and said, the problem with that Byron clip, which is first rate, by the way, none of the major networks will air live, much less at all. Therefore, only 5 people or so watching OAN or Newsmax will see it. But what a no-nonsense guy. 2028 option for sure. He may be able to cure cancer as well, says 6024. In case you missed it, we were talking about Byron Donalds, who is an absolute beast. And to 6024's point, I agree. The major networks won't air this kind of stuff. There aren't that many people watching OAN or Newsmax. I will also say that the viewership has gotten better since Fox decided to shoot itself in its own foot by firing Tucker Carlson. But the clip in question is this one. When everybody says that Joe Biden only calls Hunter Biden because, Beau Biden died and they were dealing with their grief and their pain, Byron Donalds just doesn't buy it.
It was Hunter Biden. And don't cry me the river about Beau Biden. Beau Biden dying is a tragedy, and it's wrong. I'm sorry that happened to him. But you got to understand that every time Joe Biden gets into political trouble, what does he do? He pulls on the heartstrings of Beau Biden.
Exactly. He does that every time. So to Wendy's point, which I think was tongue in cheek about us being mad at Joe Biden for simply being a loving father, Byron Donalds says they weren't on the phone every day because of Beau Biden. If that were true, explain this.
Hunter Biden didn't care that he was basically sleeping with his brother's widow when he was still married to his wife. So obviously it wasn't that big of a problem for Hunter Biden.
Yeah. Was never a problem for Hunter Biden. So, he wasn't exactly hurt. 3571 texted and said, hey, Chad. It's Chris, but thanks. Hey, Chad, the sympathy card worked for Joe just fine when his wife and daughter were killed and he became a senator. So naturally, he's going to keep using the sympathy card and see if it will work again. Well, yeah, that's what they do. That's what they do. Play the sympathy card. When you don't have actual facts or information to stand on, you lean on sympathy and hope that people just forget about it. 6024 texted again. So just play that clip for the rest of the day, and you hosts can go home until tomorrow. What a great clip! Yeah, you're absolutely right. I could literally just put this on loop and take the rest of the show off.
Hunter Biden didn't care that he was basically sleeping with his brother's widow when he was still married to his wife. So obviously it wasn't that big of a problem for Hunter Biden.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Hunter never cared. But that's what we're dealing with. So Byron just went straight gangsta, says 1538. Mac is moving my car right now. It's on that side of the building. All right. This is what my producer does for me. He also moves my car occasionally. Interrupts the show for that. But yeah, Byron Donalds is a gangster. I could play this clip all day. Take the rest of the show off. Probably have great ratings because of it. That's Byron Donalds for you. He's one of my favorites. I would love to see him run in 2028. Either him or Tucker Carlson are my heroes, my favorites right now in the Conservative Party. I'm with it. I'm changing gears a little bit. What's Jill Biden been up to? We've heard a lot about the other Bidens. What has Jill Biden been up to lately? Well, a photo started making the rounds yesterday. At least that's when I came across it. It was Jill Biden hanging out with a group of drag queens in San Francisco. Yep. That's how she's keeping busy. You know, we used to criticize Michelle Obama for the school lunches and stuff like that, but at least she was like doing something. Jill Biden's just going to like drag queen brunch and having mimosas. Yep. First Lady Jill Biden is wielding her influence in the public sphere by meeting with drag queens while Americans suffer from rising prices and crime under her husband's administration. A photo recently surfaced showing Jill Biden posing with drag queens at the San Francisco event space Welcome to Manny's. The event space describes itself as a community-focused meeting and learning places that encourages meetings and engagement with civic leaders, elected officials, artists, activists, change makers, and each other. Oh, that's so inclusive. Welcome to Manny's shared an image of First Lady Jill Biden with all the drag queens around her. It was awkward at best. You know, some of the drag queens had full-on beards. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's not much to say about how they looked. I'm sure you can imagine. You've seen one, you've seen them all, right? But the photo was shared by Welcome to Manny's on Instagram. It was Jill Biden, 5 drag queens, and the event space is declaring that they're unapologetically queer and unapologetically political. Okay. I don't know what unapologetically queer means. It's so weird. So weird. The photo says it all. San Francisco Queens meeting the First Lady of the United States of America in a civic meeting space in the Mission District of my fair city of San Francisco, the event space wrote. This is the clown world that we're dealing with. You know, Hunter Biden will sleep with his dead brother's widow and lean on sympathy. Jill Biden will go out and meet with drag queens, and if anybody says anything wrong about it, it's homophobia and transphobia, right? But, you know, sometimes you get little glimmers of hope, right? The commenters on the photo were not as thrilled as the person that posted the photo. One commenter said, "All manner of perversion with the FLOTUS in the middle of it all. What an absolute disgrace." Another commenter said, "LMAOOOO, bunch of child groomers." Yep. How do these politicians and their wives constantly get a pass on the hellscape that California has become? Drag queens aside, just going to San Francisco and not addressing the problems of San Francisco, it's just insane. It's like the family skeletons in the closet of America, right? That we all know about, but no one is allowed to address. How bad is San Francisco? Well, when you get past the bright paint on the drag queens, it's worse than you or I can imagine. And there's a viral video, or a video going viral about a young woman. It's a young woman in the video, and she just lays it all on the line about how she feels trapped in San Francisco and talks about what she deals with on the daily in San Francisco.
I'm literally shaking right now. I was just getting groceries and I live in San Francisco and I never really feel fully safe. If you live in San Francisco, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. And I just got groceries. I'm walking out of the store and this guy is walking past me and says, "Move, you stupid." And he spits in my face, spits all over my face.
San Francisco.
And then I say, "Excuse me, did you just spit in my face?" And he says, "Move or I'll rear you." There's also people everywhere and everyone's just walking by because they're like, I can't handle something else in San Francisco. It's always something else. I don't even know why I'm posting this. If you live in San Francisco, do you feel this way all the time? I don't feel safe, ever. I literally never feel safe. It's better when it's daylight. But nighttime, no, not leaving my house.
Can you imagine living your life like that, where you go to the grocery store in broad daylight and you're spit on by a homeless drug addict who then threatens assault? Unbelievable. And they wonder why people are fleeing California. There's human feces and needles in the street. And we're the intolerant ones. What conservatives are the issue, right? It's insane. Where is Nancy Pelosi in all of this? You know, that's her backyard. San Francisco is that's under her. Where's Gavin Newsom? Where is he? Gavin Newsom will debate Ron DeSantis, even though it seems like he's about to back out because he would get raked over the coals even by Bush Light, Ron DeSantis. But Pelosi would rather talk about Trump's court appearance than deal with the problems in her own backyard.
When I wasn't in the courtroom, of course, but when I saw his coming out of his car and this or that, I saw a scared puppy.
Oh, yeah. Trump is a scared puppy. Thank you, Nancy. I mean, how about instead of imagining fear on 45, you instead deal with the real fears of the people in your neighborhood? Like, this video of this poor woman with what she deals with in San Francisco, and Nancy Pelosi is just on TV calling Trump a scared puppy.
I saw a scared puppy.
Yeah, I see a lot of fear in the people that live in your district. I hear the fear in her voice.
I'm literally shaking right now. I was just getting groceries and I live in San Francisco and I never really feel fully safe. If you live in San Francisco, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about.
I'm sure you know what I'm talking about if you live in San Francisco. It's not even a question. Everyone in San Francisco feels that way. I feel so bad for this woman. I wish we could get her a job in Tennessee so that way she could leave that hellhole. But with the cost of living in San Francisco and how much a U-Haul is out of that state, I don't know if it's even affordable to leave. Nothing is affordable in that state. Unbelievable.
And I just got groceries. I'm walking out of the store and this guy is walking past me and says, "Move, you stupid." And he spits in my face, spits all over my face.
Just walking out from getting groceries and just, boom. Huge loogie right in your grill. And cussed at for what? For buying groceries? That is your country on communism. That's San Francisco for you. That's California. Unbelievable.
And then I say, "Excuse me, did you just spit in my face?" And he says, "Move or I'll rear you." There's also people everywhere and everyone's just walking by because they're like, I can't handle something else in San Francisco. It's always something else.
And nobody helps. Nobody helps this poor woman. And why would they? They have criminalized standing up to this kind of behavior. You see it with Daniel Penny. You see it with the Sikh store owner who, after the third time a guy has come into his store in California to steal from him, he's emptying cigarettes into a trash can. So the Sikh grabs a broom handle and starts beating him with it because he's had enough. He's going to be facing charges. They're investigating him for assault. So why are you shocked that nobody helps you when a terrifying homeless man spits in your face, cusses at you, and threatens to assault you? This is just another day in a Democrat paradise, a sanctuary city like San Francisco.
Something else in San Francisco. It's always something else. I don't even know why I'm posting this. If you live in San Francisco, do you feel this way all the time? I don't feel safe, ever. I literally never feel safe. It's better when it's daylight. But nighttime, no, not leaving my house.
Yeah. Nighttime, not leaving my house. In San Francisco, it used to be one of the most beautiful cities in the country. Like the days of Full House and Danny Tanner, that San Francisco is gone. It's gone. Like, could you imagine trying to do Full House in San Francisco right now?
No
hey,
way.
Hey, Michelle, look out for the feces right there. Like, just even the intro video of Full House with John Stamos and everything, they wouldn't be able to shoot that because they'd be playing football in the park and there'd be a tent city behind them. That's San Francisco now. It's just insane. That is your city on Democrats. Nashville has a huge, huge homeless problem. We can all agree with that. And I'm going to warn you, Nashville has a huge Democrat problem. And when we're getting into this mayoral runoff race, think about San Francisco and think about where the continuation of these blue policies are going to land us in 10 years. Seriously. Vote with that in mind. Don't even vote based on Nashville when you're voting in the mayoral race. Vote based on San Francisco, LA, New York City, Chicago. Do you want Nashville to look like those blue cities? Because if we continue down the road, my friends, we are 10 years away. Broadway's already a mess. That beautiful library that we have downtown, I will not bring my kids to. And it is a beautiful library. Can't bring my kids there. The homeless are washing themselves in the bathrooms. Doing God knows what. Treating it like public facilities. It's crazy. So, I think the only choice if you're voting for mayor in Nashville is Alice Rowley. I hope you do vote for her. The super text line is here for you, 615-737-9986. I got a text from 4902. It says, I am a California transplant. I've been here for almost 3 years. I moved here from San Jose, where the homeless were living in tents and causing havoc with fires in the brush behind homes right across the street from us. There's a lot more I could probably tell you. I'm so glad to be here in Middle Tennessee. I live in a rural area in Wilson County. I believe I'm far enough from the stores and major highways that I hopefully will not see them in my backyard. However, I recently heard of a person in Murfreesboro who had them living in her backyard, and the police only told her that they must be on hard times and to leave them alone. Jeez. These policies are on their way here. Well, time to stand up is now. I pray it's not too late. It is 11:21 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. This is the Chris Hand Show. Thank you for being a part of it. Hey, it's Chris Hand for USS, United Structural Systems. Listen, I'm new to Super Talk, but I am not new to the guys at USS. And with the rain that we've been having lately, you got to check out your crawl space. See if you have any standing water. If you notice wet basement walls, cracks in your basement floors, your house is trying to tell you something. And what it's saying is give USS a call. Because these guys are the pros and they know exactly what to do. That's why they have 25,000 satisfied customers. They always guarantee their best. They do the hard work and they do it right and give you a lifetime guarantee that stays with the house. It doesn't just go with you. So, they want to keep your home dry and stable and they want to do it the right way the first time. So if you're seeing that standing water, if you're seeing wet basement walls, cracks in your basement floors, call them today. 615-488-7855. Call USS at 615-488-7855 or USTN.com. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's Chris Hand. I love the super text line. 615-737-9986. You know, we were talking about the crime in San Francisco and this viral video of this poor woman who was just walking out from getting groceries and she was spit in her face by a homeless man and then cussed at and then threatened to be assaulted. And the way she talks, it's like this is a normal thing. But I just feel for her. You can hear the fear in her voice.
It's better when it's daylight. But nighttime, no, not leaving my house.
Not leaving my house at nighttime. Unbelievable. And I just want to remind everybody, these policies, they're endemic of the Blue Party. You know, they're just a few years ahead of us in San Francisco. They could be coming here to Nashville. They could already be here. 6024 texted in, said Nashville crime is up 400% over the past 5 years, and it's just the beginning. I read a text a minute ago. I'm a California transplant. Been here almost 3 years. I moved from San Jose, where there were homeless living in tents, causing havoc with fires in the brush behind homes right across the street. There's a lot more I could probably tell you. And it could be here next. Rick texted in, 5057, said we could end a lot of these homeless encampments if they would outlaw panhandling. Absolutely. Absolutely. We could do a lot more than we're doing. It's just crazy. I mean, I was talking with Dan in Nashville's Morning News today about this. The homeless in Hermitage is out of control. The camps, the panhandling, like it's awful. Even downtown on Broadway, I don't want to come down here. Like, I don't want to be harassed by a homeless person for money so they can go buy heroin or whatever they want to buy, fentanyl. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And this is coming near us. And I made the mention, and I want to make it again. When you're voting for mayor in Nashville, don't even vote. Don't even vote with Nashville in mind. Vote with San Francisco in mind. Vote with Chicago in mind. Vote with New York in mind. Because all of those problems are just a few years ahead of us. We're seeing it start to rumble up, right? Like it hasn't hit a boil yet like it has in San Francisco or Los Angeles or New York or Chicago, but we're seeing it bubble up. We are. And then what will be next? You know, once they can't get rid of the tent cities, what's next? Oh, I know what's next. I know the answer to this one. I studied last night, so I know the answer to this one. The next thing would be government funded tent cities. That would be the next. And actually that's happening in New York City. Mayor Adams, who has just been screaming and bellyaching about the migrant crisis and the illegal aliens in New York City, has announced that he has a new plan. Adams announced Monday that Randall's Island in New York City will be the new spot for more than 57,000 illegal aliens in a government-funded tent city. Awesome. This is what he said. He said, as the number of asylum seekers in our care continues to grow by hundreds every day, stretching our system to its breaking point and beyond, it has become more and more of a Herculean effort to find enough beds every night. We're grateful to Governor Hochul and New York State for their partnership in opening this new humanitarian relief center and covering the costs. Don't you love the way they play with language? A new humanitarian relief center and covering the costs. Hey, guys, do you want a new humanitarian relief center coming to a city near you? It's not a tent city. It's a humanitarian relief center. And big government's going to cover the costs. Awesome. Sign me up, dude. I love spending tax money on humanitarian relief centers. And what do you think is going to happen? Do you think that's going to incentivize anybody to become less homeless in New York City or incentivize illegal aliens to not show up? It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So the new humanitarian relief center and the government's going to cover the costs, and we need more of the same from all levels of government, Mayor Adams continued. We will continue to work with the governor and elected officials across the state to address the crisis as New York City continues to do more than any other level of government. Awesome. So, hey, when you're thinking about who to vote for mayor in Nashville, ask them what their position is on humanitarian relief centers and the government covering the costs, because I think that will tell you all you need to know about who to vote for in the Nashville mayor race. It is 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Thank you for being here.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. There was a recent study by J.D. Power looking at how happy investors were with their advisors, and it wasn't pretty. What they found was only 11% of the respondents said that they were getting comprehensive financial planning, that the fees were clear, and that they felt that the advisor was acting in their best interest. Not a good picture, 11%. Now, one of the things that we do is we do comprehensive planning. We fit all of those bills, number one. But one of the things I want to talk about is in the financial planning process, what I think it ought to look like and what is available that people aren't getting. And one of the things is called probability analysis. So in essence, this is what we're talking about. We're trying to accumulate money for retirement. Put money aside, hoping that we'll have enough so that we can have income throughout retirement. And what we find is that people have Social Security, they have pensions in their financial plan, and they also have investments. Now, with their investments, we want to do something very specific that it really requires quite an academic background to do this. And this is where we look at the cost of capital of the various things that you own in your investment portfolio. It sounds scary, it sounds really detailed, but here's the idea. Is if we look at various asset classes like large stocks and small stocks and large value and bonds and so on and so forth, we know the expected return or the cost that these entities have to pay to use your money. So we can come up with an expected return of the portfolio. We can also come up with what's called standard deviation, or how much that portfolio return may deviate from the expected return. Now that's a whole other video, but what I want to do is show you how we use this. If I look at a financial plan and I say, well, you got this area, this area, this area, what I can do is I can say, well, based on when you want to retire, this is how much income you can take, and here's the likelihood of being able to have this income survive throughout your entire life. And the way it works is this. If I take a portfolio and say, there's the expected return, I can look at history and say, well, the way your portfolio is designed, how might your one-year returns vary from the expected return, the long-term expected return? Well, what we know from academic research is that portfolios well designed and properly managed in ways that I can't get into right now, it's too complicated, portfolios actually close in an expected return, but we don't know what the short-term returns are going to be. So what we do is we project out and say, well, what if the return that happened in 1936 is followed by the return that happened in 1975, which is followed by the return in 1995, or what if it's reversed? What if they happen in different orders? And we can do 1,000 iterations, different variations on when those and how those returns may come in. And what that does is, because we can't predict the future, what return is going to follow the other, we can figure out, is it likely that we are going to be able to take the income that we need throughout retirement from this portfolio? And if not, how can we rearrange the furniture or the portfolio to give us a higher likelihood of success? And we look at life expectancies, we look at a lot of different things, but this is what is available to people that they're not getting from the financial planning community. If you want to know more, go to paulwinkler.com, set up a free 15-minute phone call, paulwinkler.com, and come in and find out more about what we do.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. That's Chris Hand. You know, I think with everything going on in the world, culture is just as important as anything else. You know, we have a ridiculously old ruling class deciding policy for us, making just terrible decisions, right? We could all agree with that. That's safe to say. But there's a comedian that I like. His name is Ryan Long, and he has this bit for how to deal with the ruling elite, and I wanted to play it for you. Here it is.
American politicians are some of the oldest in the world, and as relatives of those politicians know, you'll have to pry that power out of their cold, dead hands. That's where we come in. AMPO is a retirement home for politicians too old for literally anything else, but aren't quite ready to give up running the biggest economic and military power in the history of the world. At AMPO, we let you live the retirement life without actually having to retire. Whether you're a senator, congressperson, or the president, our assisted living facility allows those politicians to spend their twilight years gardening, lawn bowling, while still proposing complicated legislation regulating interstate and foreign commerce. They can knit, do arts and crafts, while still taking calls from lobbyists on speakerphone at maximum volume. At AMPO, we have round-the-clock, 24-hour assistance to help these politicians bathe, clothe themselves, and go to the bathroom. So there'll be no mess when making decisions on what democracy should be spread with an $800 billion a year annual military budget. We have tech professionals ready to go at all times to assist them in logging into their Facebook, using email, and explain to them what TikTok is and how it works before they cross-examine the heads of tech and prescribe legislation on those companies' interworkings, data collection, and censorship. So if your relative is a high-powered politician hell-bent on dying while still in power, AMPO is a place where they can have their cake and we can assist them in eating it too.
So that's gold. So good. So that's Ryan Long. And I play that just because it's so on point and so true and so funny. But culture is so important, and we need to win the culture war, and we need to celebrate people that are doing the right things in the culture war. I think Ryan Long is one of those comedians that is just hilarious. You can follow him on Instagram like I do, and check out some of his stuff. But like those culture jamming jokes are so important to change the narrative and change the actual conversation, because that joke about old politicians, hanging on to power with everything they have is, we can all agree on it left and right. And we need to find those areas where we can all agree on it. Like Dianne Feinstein has given power of attorney to her daughter, who is also 66. So now she can basically vote for Dianne. It's insane. Mitch McConnell has what looks to be a seizure and freezes up when he's just trying to give simple statements. And he's getting booed out of speaking gigs now. And it's just crazy that we aren't doing anything about this as a group to make things better in that realm. And I think that culture goes a long way. And culture jamming like that bit from Ryan Long about a retirement home for old politicians goes, in the right direction. And culture is downstream of politics, or politics are downstream of culture, depending on what angle you want to take. But the culture is winnable. And we know it's winnable by the way they're lying about what's happening in the culture. So you can see dozens of man on the street interviews with urban black youths, teenagers, early 20 guys, and they're all saying they're voting Trump. Every single one of them, voting Trump, man. It was way better under Trump than it is under Biden. We're voting Trump. And that's what's happening. And they're losing the black community, but whether they want to admit it or not. So when somebody like Neo says, there's only two genders and a man is a man, liberal media freaks out because they know that support in the African-American community is hanging by a thread. They know they're losing the culture war, and they know if they lose the African-American community vote, they've lost 2024. Plain and simple. So Neo was in trouble because he said a man is a man and a woman is a woman. He had these controversial statements, right? I talked about this earlier in the show, but I want to stress on it because I think it's really important. Neo didn't say anything wrong. Here's what he said. These are the original comments. I just personally come from an era where a man was a man and a woman was a woman. And there was 2 genders. And that's just how I rocked. You could identify as a goldfish if you feel like. I don't care. That ain't my business. It becomes my business when you try to make me play the game with you. I'm not going to call you a goldfish, but if you want to be a goldfish, you go be a goldfish. We live in a weird time, man. We do. Now, he went even further on the matter of kids being able to change their gender. He said, I feel like parents have almost forgotten what the role of a parent is. If your little boy comes to you and says, Daddy, I want to be a girl, you just let him rock with that? He's 5. If you let this 5-year-old boy decide to eat candy all day, he's going to do that. When did it become a good idea to let a 5-year-old, let a 6-year-old, let a 12-year-old make a life-changing decision for themselves? When did that happen? I don't understand. He can't drive a car yet, but he can decide his sex? Now, here's why it's important in the culture war aspect. The left is hanging on by a thread in the black community. I honestly, truly believe this. They're hanging on by a thread. The blue cities are falling apart. We just went over San Francisco. We could spend all day going over Chicago, how that's falling apart. But they can't let anybody else speak up anymore because it's just going to be drip, drip, waterfall. And they're going to lose the entire narrative. So after Neo says all that, his publicist, or what some people would call his handler, put out an apology on Instagram. Neo immediately jumped back and put out a statement. The media is taking the statement, the video statement, and saying he apologized. Because the media, the left-wing media, wants this to go away. The left knows they're losing the black community, so they want to make it seem like he bent the knee. So listen to the headlines. Rolling Stone, Neo apologizes for criticizing parents who support children deciding their gender identity. Neo apologizes for comments on parenting and gender identity. I plan to better educate myself on the topic. That's what Billboard magazine says. Now listen to this statement from Neo. And granted, I edited it down because it was like 2 minutes and I just wanted to get to the meat of it. Listen to this statement and you tell me if this sounds like an apology from Neo.
Somebody asked my opinion on this matter, and this is how I feel. I will never be okay with allowing a child to make a decision that detrimental to their life. I will never be okay with that. I don't care. I definitely plan to educate myself a little bit more on this matter. However, I doubt that there's any book anywhere or any opinion that somebody's going to tell me that's going to make me okay with letting a child make a decision like that. That's just period, point blank, and that's how I feel. If I get canceled for this, then you know what? Maybe this is a world where they don't need a Neo no more.
And good on him, but the media takes that, and granted, I edited it for time, but the media edits it even more for the headline. Neo apologizes for comments on parenting and gender identity. Quote, I plan to better educate myself on the topic. Now, let me just remind you what he actually said.
That detrimental to their life. I will never be okay with that. I don't care. I definitely plan to educate myself a little bit more on this matter. However, I doubt that there's any book anywhere or any opinion that somebody's going to tell me that's going to make me okay with letting a child make a decision like that.
Does that sound like he apologized? When you have the front and the back in for context, it doesn't sound like an apology to me. Of course not.
He doubled down.
He downright triple downed.
Yep.
He probably fired that publicist.
Yeah, I would assume so.
And we need to celebrate all of these things, all of these events, no matter how minor and how small they may be in the grand scheme of things. Like we're seeing right now, J.K. Rowling is removed from the Museum of Pop Culture exhibit for transphobic commentary. Oh, no. This is from Salon Magazine. J.K. Rowling has been removed from a Harry Potter exhibit at Seattle's Museum of Pop Culture due to her, and I quote, super hateful and divisive transphobic views. Yep. In a blog published in March, the museum's project manager, Chris Moore, who is also transgender, slammed Rowling's anti-trans rhetoric. There's a certain cold, heartless, joy-sucking entity in the world of Harry Potter, and this time, it's not actually a Dementor. We would love to go with the internet's theory that these books were actually written without an author, but this certain person is a bit too vocal with her super hateful and divisive views to be ignored. So they just erase her. The museum the museum project manager continued. For the time being, the curators decided to remove any of her artifacts from this gallery to reduce her impact. It's not a perfect solution, but it's what we were able to do in the short term while determining long-term practices. Okay, great. So, Rawling, who's been under fire from the LGBT, the Alphabet Mafia, since June 2020, when she called out a DevX op-ed for using the term "people who menstruate" instead of "women." That's her transphobic stuff. She said you should say "women" instead of "people who menstruate." What a bigot.
Not based.
Not based. She's the opposite of based. I mean, so she's still dealing with this from 2020. You cannot apologize and bend the knee to these radical left-wing ideologues, because as soon as you do, they don't care. Even if you slightly make an apology, like Neo said, I'm going to educate myself, they'll take it out of context and be like, yeah, you apologized. They're trying to erase J.K. Rowling from the Museum of Transphobia because she doesn't like the term "people who menstruate." She prefers the word "women." What a bigot. 615-737-9986. If you want to be a part of the conversation, that's a super text line, 615-737-9986. And again, I just feel like it's really important to hammer home that these things, these events with these people, they may not be your favorite musician. It may not be your favorite author. It may be small in the grand scheme of things, right? Sure, it may be small. But every time another person takes a stand, we get stronger, okay? It makes the next person less afraid to say what's true and what's honest, and we need to celebrate that. Neo may not change the world, right? He may not affect your day-to-day. J.K. Rowling, I don't read Harry Potter books. Not gonna change my day-to-day. Jason Aldean, maybe you don't like country music. He's not gonna save the world, right? But each of these thought leaders, each of these voices who are unwilling to remain silent on any topic that the left tells them they have to be silent on is helpful. It breaks the NPC's programming. That non-player character who can't think for themselves and needs to have approval for any of their thoughts. All of these thought leaders like Neo, like J.K. Rowling, like Jason Aldean, it's huge. It's huge. It really is. And I don't think that we shouldn't celebrate these victories, right? Like, we may not have gained a lot of territory, but we did move the chains, okay? We're moving the chains down the field. So, each of these people, even if one of them is not your cup of tea, Jason Aldean, J.K. Rowling, Neo, each of them do have an opportunity to spark the mind of somebody else who could change the world. So I don't want to discount little victories. Like, I don't think any of us should discount Kirk Cameron getting the librarian fired. I don't think that we should discount victories in territories we're regaining in the culture war because it's clown world. These are big and worthwhile things. These are things that we never, ever shouldn't celebrate. We should celebrate them every day. Absolutely. Absolutely. 615-737-9986. 0973, my friend John texted in. He said, Chris, as you said the other day, we have a devastating culture problem. There are fewer people with honesty, integrity, and character than ever. Most of all, ungodly. No wonder our politicians who are not leaders are untrustworthy and self-serving. God's faithful people must rise up and be vocal and lead our nation, or our nation is doomed to fail. Thank you, John. You said it very, very well. And you're absolutely right. That's why I'm proud of people like Riley Gaines, who's standing up for women in sports. I'm proud of all of these people. Even like a guy like Rob Schneider, who you don't hear about a lot. He's standing up against a lot of the culture. It's so good to see. So, don't let them take away our victories. Don't let them say Neo apologized. He didn't. He didn't apologize. He tripled down. That was not an apology. Celebrate our victories. Don't let them take it from us. And then they'll do things like the Jason Aldean video. They'll say, oh, Jason Aldean changed his video. And then they blast that everywhere, right? He took out all this stuff. He took it out due to copyright issues. They won't put that in the headline. they'll make it seem like he bent the knee. And they do that for the NPCs, the non-player characters who need their thoughts programmed by the mainstream media.
Was the courthouse or the...
No, the courthouse was left in. It was the news coverage from the BLM riots. There was copyright
That
claims
stuff they had.
from
Okay.
the local news stations.
Gotcha.
Because
I hadn't heard about that.
That's what the left does. They attack and they, try to take away your victories. So, and then they write these puff pieces to make it seem like Aldean was the one that changed the video. Because technically he had to, because it was a copyright issue. Jason Aldean changed his video. Yeah, because you threatened to sue me.
Yeah.
Losers. And they'll celebrate their victories. Oh, they always apologize. Nope. No apologies necessary. Don't ever apologize. That's how they win. It is 11:50 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Find me off air on Twitter, Instagram, Truth Social, at Chris Hand on air. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is 11:58 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Matt Murphy is in here. What's up, Matt?
Pardon me. Hello. How are y'all?
You said you weren't feeling bad for that San Francisco woman.
Hey, I want to feel bad for her.
Yeah.
I just have a few questions before I expend some emotional energy on her.
What are your questions?
How'd you vote in the last election? Did you vote for Gavin Newsom?
If she voted for Gavin Newsom, you wouldn't feel bad for her?
Nope.
What if she voted for Gavin Newsom, but she also voted to recall him?
Ooh, so we're coming around then.
Coming around.
I bet you wouldn't vote for Gavin Newsom now.
No. I bet she wouldn't buy a used car from Gavin Newsom now.
I was listening to the clip on the way in, and I started thinking about American cities and how these blue cities are turning against the concept of freedom and liberty. Everything Democrats touch turns to garbage. Everything they touch turns to garbage. And it will be a theme of my show today, how everything they go and try to fix, they ruin.
It's honestly the only thing you can count on Democrats for. It's like, that's it.
Turning our world to crap.
Yeah. There's nothing else that they're consistently delivering other than turning everything to crap. It's weird how that works out.
Yeah, it is.
Weird.
That's what we'll talk about today on the show.
I'm excited.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Hey, you listen to my show, I'm going to listen to your show.
Hey, plus a special session. The call's coming today or tomorrow. I'll talk about that too.
All right, it's Super Talk 99.7 WTN.